to get your thoughts on everything we've seen unfolding in recent days and what it means in terms of, I guess, growing risk of possible escalation within the region.
Well, the reason we are somewhat less concerned than consensus is structural factors. Donald Trump doesn't like foreign ventures, and the Iranians know that if there's a major war, they're going to lose it. Now, that being said, I do expect Iran to hit back and hit back hard somewhere in the Middle East. I do expect Iran to hassle shipping in the Straits. And I think a lot of right now there's a funeral going on in Iran for Qasem Soleimani. When they get around to retaliating, I think we're going to see markets much more jumpy than they are today.
What does retaliation look like in your view? We've had folks who've come on who think that it's very likely you could see something happen within the cyber realm. Is that your sense, or would you expect to see something in the form of a proxy conflict?
Well, I kind of say yes to both. I don't think, in my own view, they're terribly likely to hit back in Iraq. Iraq is going Iran's way right now. They've got the wind at their back, partly because the Soleimani killing has angered the Iraqi government. I think other Middle Eastern, our allies in the Middle East, are justifiably quite nervous. Iran has already hassled shipping since President Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal. And they're really good at cyber. The Russians have taught them everything most of what they know. And the Russians invented this game. So I think we'll see some of all of that. And I think we're in for a rough year here.
Cliff, even though, as you said at the top, you don't think either side wants or seeks a full-blown war, what percentage chance do you put at the Eurasia Group on the chance of one emerging by accident as retaliations and potential escalations unfold?
Yeah, pretty high, about 35, 40%, let's say 40%. Right now, we've got kind of the worst case scenario where both sides are really, really angry. And so you lay anger on top of miscalculation and a lot of hardware around the same kind of place. I mean, the Persian Gulf is really narrow, and you've got Iranian, speedboats, and you've got tankers going through, and something could really go wrong. So it's a really dangerous time right now.
Bob, why hasn't this therefore pulled the market back more significantly, and do you expect that it will in the weeks ahead?
For starters, I'm not sure the market's looking at a 35–40% probability of a significant war. I think the market's saying it's a much lower percentage, and I do take that point of view, although Cliff's absolutely right. An accident could get in the way, and if that happens, or the market starts to smell that or get more concerned, market has to go down some more. It's, as we said earlier, behaved so well given what we've thrown at it.
Cliff, I wonder longer term if you think everything that we're seeing transpire, including, by the way, within Iraq itself right now, makes it more or less likely that the U.S. eventually finally begins to start exiting the region.
I think that the U.S. is very close to persona non grata in Iraq. I don't think we're really on the verge of the U.S. exiting the region. Major bases in Bahrain, in Qatar, the U.S. is still the backbone of Gulf security, and that's not going to change soon. What I do think is that President Trump will bring U.S. troops that are exposed to harm's way. I think he'll get them out of harm's way sooner rather than later. And I think that will be the major Syria, Iraq. I think that'll be the major tectonic shift. We won't be a military player in the Middle East for the first time in decades.
Switching focus, Cliff, to Eurasia's top 10 risks for the year ahead. The number one risk, in fact, is a domestic one, and it's politics-based, whether that's impeachment or election. Talk us through why there's such a big domestic politics risk for the market.
Well, there's a big risk because we're going into an election right after an impeachment, and that's unprecedented. It's likely that there will be charges of impropriety in the campaign. If it's a close election, which I fully expect it to be, there'll be charges of irregularity coming from both sides. It's going to be a very hard country to govern if the next president lacks authority for some period of time. And I'd put an exclamation point on that, because we're going to be fighting. This battle with Iran just started. I think it's going to be going on all year. And if this country comes out of the next election wounded, we're not going to be well prepared to go toe-to-toe with this dangerous country. So that's our top risk.
And switching focus in terms of other top risks on this, one of the others that stood out for me was your view on China, that things are going to bubble on for quite some time, although perhaps not escalate themselves.
The major risk with China is that the two sides are decoupling their economies. It's one of the biggest changes undoing globalization that we've ever seen. And it's not just the Trump administration, it is Xi Jinping responding to the Trump administration. So China is actively trying to buttress its own national security, its own economic security, by decoupling from the U.S. That's bad for supply chains. It's bad for transaction costs. And it's going to be a very damaging and expensive separation. It's going to be a very expensive divorce.